So the title of this video is From Intensity to Character. How attraction changes as you evolve and as you grow. Right, so have you ever noticed that as you heal from romantic relationships, the people who you were once attracted to in the past, they start becoming less appealing, unattractive, even unrecognizable, and even sometimes disgusting. The behaviors you used to tolerate in the past now feels draining, annoying, even repulsive. And not necessarily because you become more judgmental now, or all of a sudden you think you're better than them, but it's because you have grown. You have evolved. You have worked on yourself, right? Now you know what an unhealthy relationship could cost you, right? Unhealthy relationship cost you in your past your peace, your mental health, your self-confidence, your self-esteem. It cost you your focus, your self-respect, your sleep, your integrity. And as a result of this, attraction could start to shift. For some people, the attraction change. They change what they're attracted to. You become less interested in the intensity and the passion and the sexual tension in the beginning. Right? And there's also confusion in the beginning. You see emotional immaturity in the beginning. You see lack of empathy. You see lack of conversational skills, lack of communicational skills. You see lack of the capacity to be in a relationship, right? You see this selfishness in most men, and they start to turn you off immediately. And you start to become more drawn to character, to consistency, to genuine respect, to emotional responsibility, to emotional maturity. You are drawn to now empathy, which most men lack. Compassion, you're drawn to reasoning skills and understanding and somebody who is kind, right? So in this video, we're going to talk about how changing your mindset can make you outgrow what once felt familiar and what once felt normal, in terms of men and in terms of romantic relationship, right? So I'm also going to talk about how to change what you're attracted to and how choosing yourself makes it impossible for you to never settle for less than you deserve ever again, right? So basically, we're gonna have a conversation about changing our mindset and changing what we're attracted to and choosing ourselves to have a better relationship with ourselves and to not settle for less than what we deserve, right? So one of the first things you have to do is basically to change your mindset, to change what you're attracted to, and to choose yourself. You have to change what you're attracted to, right? You have to avoid men who have a poor character. And this is one of the main things that I think most women need to look at. Character, right? When you change what you're attracted to, that means when you meet someone, when you date someone, or even if you're in a relationship with someone, you are not going to be attracted to someone who is entitled, who feel entitled, who is dishonest, who avoid responsibility. You're not going to be attracted to someone who is disrespectful, who is emotionally immature, who lacks integrity. You're not going to be attracted to someone who lies, who cheats, who is lustful. You're not going to be attracted to someone who disappears when there's conflict, who is dismissive when you bring up an issue, who lacks empathy, who treats you cruel and mean when they're under stress. You're not going to be attracted to someone who has a bad attitude, to a man who's dysfunctional, who creates unnecessary arguments because of his insecurity, who creates unnecessary problems, who pretend to be someone he's not, who love bomb you in the beginning. You're not going to be attracted to someone with narcissistic traits. And I will talk about narcissistic traits in the future, right? So you're changing what you're attracted to, right? Looks, chemistry, the intensity, charm, money, and attractiveness. That could be appealing in the beginning, but what I'm trying to say here now is that character is what determines how a man treats you when things get difficult, right? You cannot be fooled by chemistry, looks, intensity, charm, if he's attractive or not. A man with poor character will manipulate you, avoid accountability, disrespect your boundaries, and betray your trust, mistreat you, right? And over time, being with somebody like that could cost you. It could cost you your peace of mind. It could cost you your self-respect. It could cost you your emotional well-being, your mental health, your sense of security with him, with yourself in the relationship. And the biggest reason why women should never date men with poor character is because character determines the quality of your experience with him. A man can be attractive, he could be successful, he could be charismatic, but if he lacks integrity, eventually you will pay for it with your peace. Character is what determines whether a man will protect your well-being or become the source of your stress and your anxiety, right? So that's the first thing. You change what you're attracted to, right? So the second thing that you could do to change your mindset or to change what you're attracted to choose yourself in romantic relationships, dating, or whatever, is you have to stop abandoning yourself, right? When you abandon yourself, I did a video on that last month. You could check that out. The loss of self in romantic relationships. When you abandon yourself, this is when you consistently betray your own needs. You consistently betray your feelings, your values, your boundaries. You consistently betray your intuition in order to keep the relationship going, right? And self-abandonment looks like you staying silent when he hurts you. It looks like you accepting disrespectful behavior. It looks like when you put your needs last. It looks like you walking on eggshells and don't want to create conflict. You know, it looks like you changing who you are to become more acceptable to what you think he wants. That's abandoning yourself. Abandoning yourself is convincing yourself and telling yourself that my standards too high. I want too much. You know, I'm overreacting. Abandoning yourself looks like tolerating emotional unavailability, tolerating disappearing, tolerating ghosting. You know, letting him take your empathy for granted, letting him take your understanding for granted. You know, abandoning yourself looks like prioritizing the connection over your needs, prioritizing the connection over your experience with him and or your expectations. You abandon yourself in the relationship means that you're not paying attention to your own hobbies. You're not paying attention to your goals, your friendship, your dreams. You're more focused on him and the relationship. That's abandoning yourself, right? Abandoning yourself means that you don't listen to your intuition. You shut down your intuition when you hear something say, this relationship is hurting me. This is not the man for me. You hear that and you ignore it. Your intuition is saying, this person is not treating me well. And you dismiss it and you ignore it and you justify bad behavior, right? Your intuition is saying, he's giving the bare minimum. This is not what I deserve. And you ignore it. That's abandoning yourself. Right? You know, abandoning yourself is like not listening to yourself. You override the signals, right? Just to keep the relationship going, right? And that is what you need to stop if you want to change your mindset and change what you're attracted to. Self-abandonment begins the moment when you start choosing the relationship over your well-being. It happens when you repeatedly ignore what you know. You know the relationship is not good for you. You know this is not the good man for you. Ignore it, right? You ignore your feelings. You ignore your needs. You ignore your intuition in order to keep him comfortable and in order to keep the relationship. You want to preserve this unhealthy relationship, right? And when you abandon yourself long enough, you lose your peace of mind. You lose your self-confidence. You lose your self-respect. You lose emotional clarity. You get confused within yourself, within your mind, right? The relationship may survive for a while, but your connection to yourself will start to disappear, right? Abandoning yourself in a relationship is very draining and exhausting, right? So that's the second thing. So the third thing that you could do to change your mindset, to change what you're attracted to choose yourself, is to raise your standards, right? You should be immediately turned off when you see a man lacks emotional maturity, when he lacks integrity, when you see poor character, you're turned off automatically. When you see inconsistency, when you see hot and cold behavior, when you see in and out, when you see he has too much pride to apologize, that should turn you off. Right? You have to raise your standards. When you see he has a fragile ego, he has a big ego. When you see he's withdrawing to punish you, using silent treatment, stonewalling, shutting down, all of this should make you turned off, right? You know that he's not dating you and you're in a relationship. He's not asking meaningful questions to get to know you. He don't have the communication skills to have proper conversations with you. He lacks conversational skills. That should turn you off. He's not curious about your life. He's not asking questions about you or your life. He's not curious about you. That should turn you off. You have to raise your standards. So when you see dismissive behavior, shutting down and mistreatment, you know, when you feel like you're taken for granted, you're gonna be turned off. Right? If he's not making your life easier, you don't feel happier. He's not helpful. He's not thoughtful. Is this not making sense? And you should get turned off. All of these behaviors should automatically make them look unattractive. Right? You could even write this down. Write down what is attractive and what is unattractive. What is unattractive to you is, you know, the lack of communication skills and the big ego, not being able to apologize when they're wrong, not taking accountability. All of these things should just make them unattractive. They look disgusting. They look unpleasant to deal with, right? All of these things that I just named should make you lose feelings. You should lose attraction for them when you see this lack of emotional maturity. When you see they're not reliable. You should feel like this is disgusting. This is unpleasant to deal with. You're losing feelings. You're losing attraction. You no longer feel safe with them because they're withdrawing to punish you. Right? You should see that, okay, we're not compatible. You're seeing the incompatibility, and you no longer feel desired, you no longer feel wanted, you no longer feel loved and cared for because they're not helpful, they're not reliable, they're not thoughtful, they're not dating you, they're not asking meaningful questions, they're not curious about you. So you're turned off. and there's a mismatch, right? You decide that you will not endure this mismatch. You accept that we're not compatible. That's how you change your mindset. You raise your standards. The wrong man will cost you many months and years of your life. The wrong man will cost you your peace, your self-esteem, your mental health, your dreams, your goals, your purpose, your focus, your attention will be lost. You have to protect your future from people who are incapable of contributing positively to your life, right? The higher your self-respect, the harder and the more difficult it becomes to accept low quality treatment. So you raise your self-respect, you raise your standards, right? So that's the third thing you could do to change your mindset, to change what you're attracted to. That's what you do to choose yourself. You're not attracted to them anymore. They're incompatible. You're not compatible with them, right? So the fourth thing is to become a sovereign woman, right? That means you remain connected to yourself. You remain connected to your values. You keep your identity. You don't shrink your needs. You don't soften your opinions. You don't shrink your dreams to be chosen or to make him feel comfortable. You take responsibility for your own emotions. You take responsibility for your well-being. If you see your mental health going down, physical health going down, and you know it's because of the relationship, you have to remove yourself. That is being sovereign. That is taking responsibility for your well-being, right? You would be watching patterns of behavior, not what he's saying, right? You don't try to help them evolve. You don't try to teach them to evolve. That's not your responsibility. Everybody is responsible for improving themselves and working on their character. You don't over-explain your standards. You don't lose yourself trying to keep the relationship. You're right. You put yourself first always, because most men are selfish and self-centered. So you have to put yourself first. Men would give up and leave for stupid things. No matter how much time you put, effort you put into relationship, into them, because they're so selfish and so self-centered, most of them, they would leave at any time for something stupid. So you have to put in the back of your mind that more than likely might not work out. So you have to keep putting yourself first, right? You have to stand your ground and you have to stand up for yourself at all times, right? And this looks like being a sovereign woman means, like, if you see poor behavior, you address it rather than make excuses, rather than justify his behavior. If you see your values are repeatedly violated, you are willing to walk away. Being a sovereign woman means you are willing to walk away if things are not working out. Never make a man a center of your life. Most men want you to make them the center of your life. And then if you do that, you start to neglect your friends, you start to neglect your goals, your interests, your purpose, you start to neglect your personal growth, and your well-being could go down. Your happiness starts to become dependent on his behavior, on his approval. And that is very dangerous. That could really make you heartbroken in the end. So as you evolve and as you grow and you learn from past relationships, your attraction could start to change. What you're attracted to could change. What once felt exciting and intense and irresistible in the beginning would no longer hold the same appeal, right? That's because growth changed your perspective. You begin to understand that intensity in the beginning is not the same as love. That chemistry and the passion is not saying that you're compatible, right? There will always be chemistry and passion in the beginning, But that doesn't mean you're compatible, right? He could be attractive, he could be charming, but you don't know his character, right? So as your self-worth and your self-respect increases, your tolerance for emotional immaturity and inconsistency and dishonesty and poor treatment, that would decrease because you build up your self-respect and your self-worth. You stop chasing relationships mindlessly and start choosing what is safe and what is healthy and focus more on character. You become less impressed by charm and fake confidence and more interested in integrity and character. Less drawn to potential. Everybody have potential. Potential could just be there stuck. You're more focused on behavior, patterns of behavior, character, integrity, right? So the truth is, healing and growing, evolving, raising your standards, learning from your mistakes will change what you're attracted to, right? You begin to value peace over chaos, consistency over unpredictability. Unpredictability is very annoying and unattractive. So that should turn you off when you're not sure what's going on, where you stand, what's happening. When you're confused, you should be turned off, right? You should choose character, focus on character and integrity than charisma and looks and attractiveness and the intensity you feel in the beginning. You have to focus on character. That will tell you everything, right? One of the clearest signs of personal growth is when you no longer choose people based on how intensely they make you feel in the beginning, but you want to choose on how they make you feel safe. Do you feel safe? Do I feel respected? Is this man kind? Is he compassionate? Is he trustworthy? Instead of looks and attractiveness and charm, right? Because at the end of the day, character is what sustains a relationship longer than excitement and attraction and intensity, right? So that is how you change your mindset. That is how you change what you're attracted to. That is how you choose yourself, right? So I hope this video helps. Thanks for watching. You can like the video, you can subscribe if you want to, and see you in the next video.